Hi guys, welcome to the podcast. Before we start, we just want to introduce you to our sponsor. Our sponsor is the Twitter handle @MugsNFL. They're a company that offer a range of custom items such as mugs, t-shirts, crewneck jumpers, and hoodies, all customized with your favorite sports player or your sports team. That can be any sport ranging from the NFL through to the NBA to UK sports. All you have to do for an extra 10% off your order is drop them a message on Twitter quoting our podcast, that is the Hardwood Hoops podcast, and they'll get 10% off your next order. Cheers and enjoy the show. Hello and welcome back to the Hardwood Hoops podcast. This is episode 36 and it is our draft recap with CJ Marchesani. CJ, how you doing?
Not too bad. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. We were just talking off air about how late the draft is UK time, but I'm glad I stayed up for it. It was maybe not as many trades as we thought, but it was still enjoyable.
Yeah, it's my favorite night of the year. It's like Christmas. I love it.
Yeah, I think I asked you before the draft how many top 10 picks might get traded, and you said 3. I think I said 4, and then we have none.
Yeah, we should have expected that. In this weird draft year and COVID and everything crazy that's happening, of course, the one draft we think every pick is going to get traded. Nobody moves anywhere.
Yeah, I was set on Cleveland Warriors or Charlotte making a move, and the fact that none of them did shock me. But then I kind of thought, with the way this off season's going, it's just typical that everything we thought didn't happen. Apart from the fact the top 3 was kind of the consensus top 3, which we should have known probably 5 months ago. But I think that the length of the draft kind of meant people were almost second guessing themselves a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I saw you maybe made some money off of that too.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I had 1, 2, 3, and then I had 1, 2, 3, 4 as well. I picked
Nice.
Denny at 4, and then Williams at 4 as well. Did one of each. But I think
Worked out
over
pretty
here,
well.
I think over here the bookies kind of knew what was happening because Williams was 10-1 to be 4, which is good odds. And then about an hour before the draft, he dropped nearly by half. So I think that there's some sort of intel that must have been going on. But yeah, our other draft guest, James Plowright, who came on the episode after you, he did 8 for 8 on his bets. So we got 8 out of 8 right. So kind of showed what a chalk draft it was a little bit in the first round.
Yeah, I think, we'll talk about it as we go through, but I think the first 8 or 9 picks were pretty much the bet that you would take there.
Yeah, I was a little bit shocked on Denny, but when we get to that, we'll discuss him. You're a Sixers fan, so I can't not ask you about your draft day trade. You did 2, but one of them is going to come up later. But the main one was you finally got rid of Al Horford's contract. How do you feel?
We did. I threw a little party here at home. We've talked about this a bunch. I'm not a big Al Horford guy. I didn't like him in Boston. I never thought he was very good. I didn't like him when he came to Philly, and that's over. And it wasn't as expensive as I thought it was going to be. A lightly protected 2025 first, which is a little bit nerve-wracking just because it's so far out and who knows what'll happen. But for a team that is built to compete right now, that's a price I'm willing to pay. On top of, I think we sent number 34 in this draft too. And we brought back Danny Green and Terrence Ferguson too, who are both rotation guys. I liked it.
Yeah, Danny Green adds more shooting as well, which even though he had a bit of a down playoff year for him, even though he's still a champion, he still does the 3-and-D role that we've spoken about before that you guys need. You don't need more people to kind of plug up the paint. You want more people to be able to just to shoot and then to defend. And I think you've got the look of a really good defensive team again. I know you were good last year defensively, but I think it's only going to improve now.
Yeah. I think that any team that is built on the bedrocks of Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons is going to have really high defensive potential. And Danny Green, he's lost a step or two, but he's a good defender. Some of the picks we made, I'm sure we'll talk about later. I think, like you said, I think the defense will be a top 5 to 7 defense in the league this year, and hopefully the offense will improve.
Yeah, and you can never bank on injuries, but if you look at the age of Joel and Ben, I don't think the 2025 pick would be something that you'd be worried about giving up if injuries allow that. So we never know how it's going to go so far away, but in terms of their age profile, I'd like to think both would still be on the team. And if they're on the team, it's not going to be a good pick. So overall, I think to get rid of Horford, it's a plus. That's a bad contract, sir.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't mind it from the Thunder point of view either. If you're going to take a lottery swing on a dysfunctional team, I mean, what are the chances the Sixers fall apart by 2025 based on everything else that's happened in Philadelphia over the past 3 years? I mean, there's a chance.
Yeah,
I don't
there's a
mind it for them.
chance. Yeah. Yeah, and OKC I think picked up another 2 picks as well on the draft night. They tried to trade Oubre as well to get another pick, which would have been 19 first-round picks in 6 years, I think. So Presti's just getting whatever he can, no matter what pick you offer him. He seems to be keen to take them all.
Yeah, he's having a blast. He's doing what I do when I play 2K on the franchise and just trading every player on the roster per pick, which when you don't have a star, I guess it's the way to go.
Yeah, 2024, 2025, it'll just be Pelicans and Thunder picking back to back for the lottery.
Maybe scouting sixth graders.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Cool. So let's move into our draft grades then. We're going to go one by one, go through every pick just in the first round, and I'll ask you for your grade and then kind of see where mine matches up.
Sure.
So the first pick, no surprise really, Anthony Edwards to the Timberwolves. We thought there was a chance they might trade out or Charlotte might trade up, but like we said, that wasn't the case. What grade did you give for this pick?
Sure. So I think as far as the trade goes, I think it was pretty clear by the rest of the top 8 or 9 that there weren't really trades to be had. If they were there, the teams would have taken them. Anthony Edwards was always the best fit for the Wolves at 1. I'm going B plus just because, look, I mean, they have the first overall pick. They took he's not my top guy, but he's a top guy. It's not particularly inspiring draft, so it's not a particularly inspiring grade, but I think they'd be happy with the B plus pick here in Anthony Edwards.
Yeah, I struggled a little bit. I think I put A minus just because I think I really don't think Wiseman fits with them, and I don't think LaMelo Ball fits at all with Russell. So I think they're both better than Edwards, but I just think the fit is a little bit better. So I'm with an A minus, so not too far away. They were still listening to offers, but clearly nothing kind of was enough for them to trade out that one. And they made some moves later in the draft as well. We'll talk about that kind of strengthened their team again. Number 2, Golden State Warriors. There was a rumor in the day that they were trying to trade with Chicago Bulls for the 4 and Wendell Carter. I thought that was going to be a great trade and they were going to pull the trigger on it. Apparently, they didn't agree and they went up and picked James Wiseman, who I'm very glad they picked. No surprise I did A for this grade. What was your grade for this one?
Yeah, I figured we might be a little bit further apart on this one. The rumored Bulls trade would have been a home run for them. I don't think the Bulls would have done that. I like Wendell Carter Jr. quite a bit. I'm sure they do too. I don't think they would want to part with that. I think that might have been a bit of the Warriors trying to drum up some trade interest. But as far as the Wiseman pick goes, I have a C. You know I don't like Wiseman. I don't think he, in the first 3 or 4 years he's in the league, closes playoff games. I just don't think he has the movement skills and the ability to defend ISOs and pick and rolls that a team like, especially the Warriors, who maybe now who knows what happened with Clay. Hopefully he's okay. He had some sort of Achilles, ankle, something injury yesterday. But it just feels like even if you couldn't get a trade, you just need to pick somebody there that is going to help your team win a championship. And I don't think Wiseman's that guy in the first 3 or 4 years in the league.
Yeah, I do think that if I could choose, I think that the trade for 4 would have been better. We don't know who they took it for, whether it was a Denny or Williams or maybe a Halliburton. But I think they would have got more assets that can help them win now. But like you said, I'm very high on Wiseman, so he gets a good grade for me. And I just don't think LaMelo fits the timeline, even though it can extend the dynasty. I just don't think if Clay is hurt, then they need more people to help them win now. And for me, I think LaMelo is a bit further away.
I agree. I think Melo was a bit of a pipe dream on my end too. I don't think I would have loved either pick there. They were in sort of a weird spot. I'm really surprised that they didn't find a trade down here, even if it was just for something small and a better fit later in the draft.
Yeah, I was shocked that there wasn't some sort of trade exception, Marquise Chris, Looney, number 2, and something else for some like Aaron Gordon style player. I thought that's what we were going to get about an hour before the draft, but clearly not. Leads on to a bit more LaMelo Ball chat then. So the Hornets picked him at 3. The top 3 were kind of what we said we're going to be. For this grade, I put an A. I do like LaMelo Ball, and I think that he was the best fit for the Hornets. I think Wiseman would have fit as well, but when you're a team that needs that much talent, I like building around someone who can be your lead guard. So yeah, I gave that one an A as well.
Yeah, LaMelo got an A+ for me. I had him as far and away the best player on the board at the start of the draft. I think he's going to be a guy. I see a path to him being a top 15 player in the league. And they got, in my opinion, the best player in the draft at 3. So that's an A+ for me. And I actually think we might look back at this in a couple of years unfavorably on the Wolves and Warriors for letting them slip to 3.
Yeah, I think Michael Jordan given the seal of approval the day before the draft. That was the rumors. I think that kind of nailed the pick, wasn't it? That if LaMelo was going to be there was no way they were going to pick someone like an Okongwu when they can go for that upside. So I think it was
Yeah.
a
I was
clever
actually
trade.
really, yeah, I was happy he ended up with the Hornets too, because the Wolves have D'Lo and Cat, and the Warriors are going to have a lot of expectations. And I feel like the Hornets are the best place for him to develop for a couple years and really work on his game, work on his craft without the pressure that comes with the Warriors or the, I don't know, drama that comes with the Wolves. So I think the Hornets were a great landing spot for him. A+.
Yeah, I think the only way that the only team that he fits, sorry, in the top 5 for me was the Hornets. I don't think he fits the Bulls playing next to Levine. I didn't think that the Cavs were ever going to get another guard. So for me, the only thing I thought was maybe like a Knicks could trade up, but then once again, the pressure's huge. Whereas in Charlotte, he can kind of just grow into the player that maybe he can be in 2 seasons' time. So yeah, a good pick for the Hornets. I'm sure the fans are absolutely buzzing with that one. Number 4, then the Bulls. This was supposed to be between Denny and Patrick Williams. They decided to go for Patrick Williams. I gave this a B. I do slightly find it hard to grade it higher than a B or a B minus because he didn't even start for his college team. But I see the fit, and I really didn't think they should go another guard. I don't think you should put another guard next to Zach LaVine. So I like that Williams was the pick just for the fit. As long as he can turn himself into a 3 in the league, I don't think he fits playing next to either of their bigs as a 4. But that's my opinion. What grade did you give it?
So I went A-, and I will explain myself. I think I might be the single highest person in the world on Patrick Williams. I've had him. I the last couple days of the draft, I finally just listened to my heart and bumped him up to 4 on my board. He's my favorite player in the draft to watch play. I am not worried about the not starting on the college team thing because I think out of all these freshmen that got picked in the first 15-ish spots, I think he was the best of them. I think he was really, really good for Florida State. He didn't start games, but he closed all of the games. He's big wing, got some self-creation potential. He's got a good handle. He can shoot vertical leap out of the building. He needs to work on his lateral agility. That's the big weakness right now. He needs to get better moving from side to side. But I think Pat Williams is just beginning to scratch the surface of his potential, and I think that this is a really good pick for the Bulls. Although it might not be great value, we were talking about this last time that 4 was a little bit of the fulcrum spot. We didn't really know where it could go from here.
Yeah.
But I love the player, and I actually love the player, and I think he's probably a 4, honestly. At least for the first year or 2 in the league, I don't think he has the lateral agility to guard threes. So it makes me question if they have long-term plans for Lauri Markkanen.
Well, it may be no surprise then if they did offer the Warriors that trade with Carter, and maybe they see Markkanen as a stretch 5 and Williams as the 4. That could be why that trade was kind of rumored. Because I agree with you. I think for now he's more of a 4. That's why he didn't get the A for me because I just don't see him playing enough. But if he can turn himself into a 3, like you said, with that lateral quickness, then for me he'll be one of their star players in a few years' time. So I still think it was a good pick. At 5, the Cleveland Cavaliers were trying to trade the pick. They couldn't trade the pick. They ended up picking Isaac Okoro from Auburn. What grade did you have for this one?
Yeah, I have an A here. I actually think most of the first half of the lottery did pretty good. Isaac Okoro was the best fit for the Cavs. I'm glad they stayed away from Obi Toppin. They have a bunch of young guards that like to score, and Isaac Okoro is pretty much the opposite. He is a defensive first wing, gritty, great kid, more than just a defender. He can pass, cut, slash, do pretty much anything you could ever want a basketball player to do on the court except for shoot the basketball, which I know is a very important part. But on that young team, he's a great, great connector piece. And if he ever figures out the shot, he he will definitely live up to the top 5 selection.
Yeah, for me, I put B minus for this one. I really like him, but I don't like the fit for him personally. I think they're so bad defensively that he's going to have to guard the best player on the team they play every night. And for me, as a rookie, that puts a lot of pressure on you. And like you said, the shot is the main worry. And their guards didn't prove last year they can shoot that well either. So I wanted them to have a little bit more shooting. There's a couple of players we're going to talk about later that I thought they might try and get a 5. But overall, I think apart from the shooting side of things, for the team, it's an absolute perfect fit. Minus that, I just think for him, he probably wanted to fall a little bit more, maybe to a team where he can kind of be involved a bit more than what he'll have to be at Cleveland, because those guards are so ball dominant that I think he's going to be standing in the corner and defending a lot. But I like the player, and I think his potential is huge. And he'll be one of the best defenders, I think, to come out of this draft for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
So at number 6, then Atlanta Hawks. This one actually surprised me with the fact they've got Clint Capella. So the Hawks selected a Okongwu from USC. This is my one of the lowest grade I think so far. I gave this a C, and it's not because I don't like the player; it's because I don't really like the fit behind Capella, who's probably going to play all the time, and John Collins. We're not sure what they're going to do with him. I don't think Okongwu really fits this team as much. I think he's going to be spending a lot of time staring at Trae Young and hoping for dump offs whenever he plays. But yeah, I went with C. What did you go for this one?
We are on the same page. I went for C+, pretty much exactly what you said. I love Onyeka Okongwu, great player. A little bit of a Bam light. He is a great defender, which the Hawks need at a not that valuable position. I'm never really a fan of drafting centers early anyway, just because you can get replacement level centers so cheap in the league. And yeah, like you said, it's a weird fit with Capella there. He's probably not going to play much his rookie year. Capella's not a long-term building piece, so maybe they're just looking for the future, which wouldn't be a bad move for the Hawks. But I thought there were maybe some wings on the board, defensive-minded wings on the board that might make sense as a connector pieces with Cam Reddish to try to complement Trae a little bit more than this does.
Yeah, I think if Okoro was there, I think he would probably have been the pick, would be my guess. But with him off the board, maybe they went with their second option. But yeah, we've heard a lot of rumours that the Hawks wanted to kind of win now, to keep Trae Young around, keep the superstar happy. And I think, like you said, that he's not going to play loads of minutes in loads of crunch time for this team in his first year, and I'm not sure he helps them to win now. So a bit of a strange fit for me.
I agree. I think the sell for Onyeka Okongwu is you can play him at the 5. He's a little bit undersized, but he defends the rim, all of that stuff. I don't think he's a 4. I don't think you want to play him with another big. And he seems a little bit redundant with John Collins, and I don't think you can play him next to Capella. So great player, weird fit.
Yeah, I agree. So number 7 then, the Detroit Pistons. We spoke about this before. They were very focused on as much talent as possible. They selected Killian Hayes. And for me, I think this is a really, really good pick. They needed talent, and that's something that Hayes has got. He's very, very well rounded. And I think it's just a bit of a more riskier pick maybe for Troy Weaver in his first. I think this is his first draft. So I give this a grade A for me. It's one of my favorite picks in the top 10.
Again, I'm right there with you. This pick got my second A+. Killian Hayes was second on my board. Pistons got him at 7. Like we were talking about in the last one, the Pistons need to be acquiring high-end talent. They need to be taking shots at guys that they think could maybe be all-stars because they don't have that kind of player on the team. And Killian is that kind of guy. He is fit for a pro-style offense. He's already a proficient pick-and-roll player, great handle, solid on defense. He can shoot the ball. I don't think there is much worry about Killian Hayes. I think he's going to be a really good player. He's got to add a little bit of strength on ball, but I think they knocked it out of the park with this one as far as upside. And the guys that were left on the board are kind of connector pieces, and they don't have anything to connect yet. So I like the Killian Hayes swing.
Yeah, I don't think I gave anyone an A+. I think I just didn't even register. So maybe Killian Hayes might be an A+ for me. But yeah, the next pick, number 8, this is not an A+ for me. The New York Knicks select Obi Toppin. Everyone says he's the best player in college basketball last year. But for me, it's another strange fit. He's a New York kid as well, so I understand the hometown sort of aspect of it. But he's going to play 4 for the Knicks, and he's going to play alongside Mitchell Robinson. And they both need people to space the floor for them, which the Knicks haven't got. and I just don't like that fit. So I gave it a C, and I understand his offensive potential is huge, but defensively he's very, very bad. And fit wise, I don't understand it. And when there's someone on the board like Halliburton, and you're a team that hasn't had a point guard in 20 years, I don't think you should be picking Obi Toppin. So I gave this a C, maybe a C minus. I might change it to a C minus.
Okay, I was C plus for a lot of the same reasons you just said. I think from the Knicks' point of view, the Knicks need people that can score the ball. And I actually think on the offensive end, Obi Toppin's a pretty good fit next to RJ Barrett. I think they complement each other well, which got the plus for the C plus. But everything else, you don't love. They have 500,000 power forwards already. He can't guard anyone, which is not great for a big. He's awkward to fit next to Mitchell Robinson. New York kid. He seemed thrilled to go to New York, and I don't know how many people would be thrilled to be a Knick right now. So maybe that had something to do with it. But like you said, it's I watched the draft with my family, and every time the Knicks came on, I just kind of laughed and said, "Okay, the Knicks are going to do something weird," and the Knicks did something weird. So C plus.
Yeah, I think they're going to be very bad defensively, depending on what they do. And I'm not sure that he's going to be the ideal fit for Tibbs. I saw an interview where he blamed some of his defensive issues on the fact that he wasn't trying as hard at college. But now he's in the NBA, he's going to try harder. And I think if you go to Tibbs and say, "Oh, I didn't try that hard on defense in college," he's going to not look at you very fondly. So I think that's a very strange fit. But
he has awful balance. We talked about Pat Williams needing to improve his lateral athleticism. Pat Williams needs to upgrade that like a little bit. Obi Toppin needs to learn how to walk side to side. Like it's a whole different level of needing to fix lateral agility. He's not going to guard anyone. He's going to score. And I mean, the Knicks need someone to score. Maybe he'll have a little fun, throw some dunks down in the Garden. I don't think it's picked that is all that conducive to winning.
Yeah, I watched the Ringer post-draft show, and Bill Simmons seems to think that someone's trading for Russell Westbrook, and I wonder if that's the Knicks and whether Mitchell Robinson goes the other way. That kind of frees up a bit of that inside scoring for Toppin, but we'll have to see. So pick number 9 then. This is one of my favourite picks in the top 10. The Wizards selected Denny Advia from Tel Aviv. For me, I love Denny. I thought he was going to go at number 4, if I'm honest, to the Bulls. So I gave this a minus just because I really like the fit. I like the fact he's at 9, and they kind of took a swing, and they're a franchise that needs to take swings for me. Before they lose John Wall and Bradley Beal, they need to kind of go for it and see what they've got. So for me, I like Denny's fit. And if they sign Davis Bertans as well, I think they could have quite a good starting 5 for the Eastern Conference. So yeah, a minus for me.
So we differ here for the first time in a while. I went C plus. Mostly, it sounds like I just don't like Denny as much as you do. I think he's a perfect 5th starter. I'm not really sure he's anything more than that. And I think on a Wizards team that, they have John Wall and they have Bradley Beal, but Wall's a little bit past his prime. They don't have much else going on besides that. I feel like maybe a higher upside swing or I think it's just I'm not very enthused by Denny. He doesn't do much well. He doesn't do much poorly, but he's not great at anything. And
shooting's a worry, isn't it?
Yeah, shooting's a worry, which isn't a big deal next to Bradley Beal, but Denny, C plus.
Cool. Let's move on to number 10. This is another one that surprised me. Jalen Smith from Maryland went to the Phoenix Suns. What grade did you give this pick?
This pick got a D from me, and it has nothing to do with Jalen Smith because I love Jalen Smith. I was actually higher on him than I think a lot of people were. He ended up in the 20s on my board. But the Phoenix Suns had a chance to add a Devin Vassell or a Halliburton or Kira Lewis next to Booker behind Chris Paul and really add to their core. And instead, they drafted a backup center to DeAndre Ayton. I mean, I don't think you ever want them playing together. He's going to max out at 10 minutes a game, be insurance behind Ayton. And that's just, in my opinion, really terrible use of an asset. It doesn't have as much to do with the player, who I actually think is going to be pretty good, as much as you have the 10th pick and you have people on the board that could really improve your young core. And I think it's just weird asset use there.
Yeah, I put D as well. This was one of the first ones I kind of thought might be an F, just because, again, not the player. He's very good outside shooter for someone of his size. And I think I had him ranked at 21 on my board. So not a million
So you
miles
were
away
high
from
on him too.
Yeah, not a million miles away from 10, but still far enough back that it doesn't really make sense. And there was a lot of talk, especially over here in the UK, because we've got quite a large Suns fan base over here. When they traded for Chris Paul, they were very excited. And the fact they could keep the 10 pick was almost this big bonus that they could add another player for their rotation. And for me, they picked someone, like you said, who's not going to play more than 10, 15 minutes unless Aiton's injured. And it's just a strange fit. Even a wing for me, if you don't go for that guard role behind Chris Paul, I think even a wing that can shoot and doesn't really want to be involved as a ball handler, I think that helps more than this pick. So for me, it's a bit of a weird fit. So I gave it a D as well.
Now we talked about it a little bit. Sorry, we talked about it a little bit with Onyeka at 6. I don't like picking centers early, and that like goes tenfold too. I don't like picking backup centers early. It didn't make any sense.
Yeah, well, he's the third. If you think about a top 10 draft in the modern day NBA and 3 centers go in the top 10, that's a strange fit when you look at how the league plays now. So yeah, I'm not sure. In terms of over here as well, there was a bet going around, and Jalen Smith's odds were under 20. So people kind of really didn't see him going under 20. Under 20, and then for him to go at 10, that was a big shock. It's probably the biggest shock over here on draft Twitter, I'd say. But yeah, let's move on to number 11 then, San Antonio Spurs. As always, a good player force to them, one of my favourite players. Devin Vassell from Florida State. I gave this an A+. I gave it an A, but now you've given pluses out. I had to give this an A+. I think he's a perfect fit for the organisation. I love him on both ends of the floor. I think he's the player that I thought the Cavs might take instead of Okoro. So for me, to get him at 11 when I had him at 6 on my board, I just think that's a really, really good pick. So yeah, A+ for me.
Yeah, I had A-. I agree with everything that you just said. I love Vassell. I think he's really good. I had him higher on my board than 11, so a great value. Spurs don't really have any stars, which is the only thing that kept it from a plus or an A. But this kind of fell in the same Anthony Edwards range for me as just like they made the right pick. It got to 11. Devin Vassell was still there. You had no choice. It's a great pick. Devin Vassell's a great player, great kid, and he's going to a great landing spot in San Antonio.
Yeah, and I do think they would have been fielding a lot of trade offers as well with him on the board and Halliburton still on the board at that point. I think they did well to kind of stick to their guns and just take the best player available for them, probably best fit. So it's no surprise that the Spurs make good decisions. So let's move on to number 12 then, the Kings, who don't normally make good decisions. They did this time. Tyrese Halliburton from Iowa State. He's a player that I just thought the Knicks have to take at 8. I love the pick. I love the player. I'd be tempted if I was Golden State to trade back in that trade. He would have been who I would have took at 4. So I'm really, really high on Halliburton. So I gave this an A, but I've moved up to an A+ again. I just love the fit, and I know they've already got a guard, but they're 2 guards that play very differently, and he can definitely play off ball like he did in his first year at Iowa State. So I like the pick. What about you?
Yeah, I am an A too, and I think you just alluded to why. I think that Halliburton is the perfect player to play next to De'Aaron Fox. He defends well off ball, good helper, good cutter. And my worry about Halliburton going into this is I didn't really think he was that primary point guard kind of guy. He doesn't have all of the pick and roll self-creation chops that I want out of my primary. But to go next to De'Aaron Fox at Sacramento and get to be that secondary connector piece, I think they hit this out of the park. And I think it's a good sign for Kings fans who haven't had very many good signs lately to see their team make the right pick.
Yeah, and the fact that they also didn't lose Bogdanovic, apparently. We found out an hour before the draft. I just think it was a good day for the Kings, and Halliburton maybe was taken to replace him. So
I think the conspiracy theory there for the Kings is that they're probably going to end up losing Bogdanovic anyway. I think that sign and trade with Milwaukee was a little bit preemptive to the league rules, and some people threw up their hands a little bit. And I have a feeling that once restricted free agency starts, he will be going somewhere else, and you may see him go back to Milwaukee.
Yeah, they've said that they're letting him explore other sign and trade offers. That seems to be the way they want to go, which makes sense, not losing an asset. But we have to see what they get back for him, and maybe it won't be a guard now they've taken. Next, we have the Pelicans, team with loads of future draft picks as well. They went with Kira Lewis, a guard from Alabama that a lot of people I know are high on. Some people thought he'd go a lot higher than this. What grade did you give this pick?
Yeah, Kyra got my third straight A something. He got an A minus. I think it makes a lot of sense for the Pelicans. They're young and upsidey right now, so they took a young upsidey point guard. They just lost Drew Holiday. It's a good fit. Kyra Lewis is a sophomore out of Alabama, but he didn't play his senior year in high school. He reclassified. So he is actually freshman age, and he is very, very, very fast, lightning fast. Shoots the ball. I had a little bit of worry about him being a primary at the next level. Like we've talked about a lot of guys in this draft, but playing next to Zion and Brandon Ingram is a great fit for him because he won't have to shoulder all of the load, and his speed and Zion's power and leaping ability is going to create some fun transition play in New Orleans while they're waiting for their talent to catch up to their potential.
Yeah, I think Zion, Jackson Hayes, Lonzo Ball, and Lewis Jr. on the break is going to be very exciting. They're going to be definitely a league pass team, I think, for a lot of neutral fans.
For sure.
Cool, let's go on to pick 14 then. The Boston Celtics, who again were a team that were trying to trade. A lot of rumours they went to trade all their picks to move up. They offered these picks apparently for Drew Holiday. Couldn't get a deal done, so they picked Aaron Naismith from Vanderbilt. I was very unsure on this grade. I read a lot about him. He's one of the players I didn't study as much. I knew he was a good shooter, but I hadn't seen enough tape of him, so I watched some tape this morning. I gave it a B minus after seeing that, just because of the way he can shoot off movement and off spot ups, which is something they kind of need. But I just thought there was other players maybe better available for their fit for me. So I gave it a B. What about you?
Yeah, I gave it a C, and I'm a Sixers fan, so I judge my Celtics moves over how they make me feel when they immediately happen. And they announced Naismith, and I kind of felt a little bit of relief. So the C. I don't think he is a very well-rounded player. I think he's more just a shooter at this point. He's a good shooter, off movement, for sure. But he shot a high percentage on threes over a small sample of games against non-conference teams in college this year, and then he got hurt. So we didn't see him play very much difficult competition, and it's hard to trust that. Like he shot, I don't remember what the exact number was off the top of my head, but he shot a very high percentage from three over a couple games in college. And while that's great, you'd rather him shoot a high percentage than a low percentage. I'm not as confident in everybody else that he is the best shooter in the draft. I think, like you said, I think this was a bit of a reach, and as a Sixers fan, I was pretty happy about it.
Yeah, I think I had him in the 20s, just from consensus mocks and stuff. But yeah,
he sat 26. Sorry, he sat 26 on my board. So Celtics got him here at 14. I don't love.
Yeah, it's a reach. Yeah, and there's a foot injury as well, which we know can kind of, if they're not dealt with properly, they can really nag on them into your NBA career, especially with the shorter off season from this point. So yeah, a strange fit, but they needed shooting. I agree with that, but I think he's a bit of a reach. Let's go on to number 15 then, Orlando Magic. They picked Cole Anthony from North Carolina. I wasn't quite sure how to grade this pick because I was really high on him a year ago. I really like the upside, but I just never trust how the Magic develop their players, and I don't like the fit next to Fultz. So I went with a C plus more for fit reasons, but I'd understand if you'd grade higher based on his upside. But yeah, what grade did you give?
And I did grade higher. I gave this one an A, partially just for value. I had Cole, and a lot of people didn't. This is definitely not where he fell at consensus, but I had Cole 5 on my board. I am a big believer in the pre-college sample, and he was a top 3 pick based on the pre-college sample. I'm not going to knock him as much as everybody else for the injury. He had a rough time this last year, and he played on a really bad UNC team that provided no spacing. I actually do like the fit next to Fultz. I think that as a guard tandem, Cole can take care of a lot of the pick and roll stuff that maybe Markelle can't right now. And Markelle covers a lot of his defensive deficiencies with that long wingspan. They're both fast. Cole can really score from all three levels, and I think having a ball handler like Markel next to him is actually going to help him. And Cole can space the floor a little bit too, so he's not going to be a liability next to Markel. So I happen to both like the fit and the player here, which is why he gets the A.
Do you think he'll start straight away? Maybe not necessarily first game, but in the first couple of months of the season, you think he'll be their starting lead guard or secondary guard?
Yes, I do. I think he'll start quickly. I think that there's a possibility, which is I think the fear for a lot of people, why they had Cole falling this far. I think it's possible that at the end of the day, he's maybe better as a super sixth man, and he's not actually a starter. But I'm not going to pigeonhole him into that yet. And I think a starting backcourt of Markel and Cole is one of the higher upside backcourts out of that mosh posh at the bottom of the East.
Yeah, and I think they have a good chance of getting another good pick for next year's draft as well, where they can add that next level of talent to try and help the team. Because Jonathan Isaac's going to miss the whole season, I think.
Yes, he is, and we've made it this far without mentioning next year, which I think is the reason we didn't see a lot of trades. I think people looking at the top of the draft anyway. I think people looking to trade at the top probably were asking for 2021 picks, and teams were smartly saying no because 2021 is loaded. I've been watching 2021 almost as much as 2020 this is the last couple months because it's just so much more fun. And there are, I don't know, there's probably 8 guys I would have taken in the top 2 in this draft. So I think that was a reason why we didn't see very much trading.
Yeah, I think I got 7 guys that would probably go number 1. 5 to 7. I'm very high on Wiseman, who I had at number 1, as you know, but I could reasonably pick 7 people to go at 1 in this draft. That's how good next year's draft. And I think that's the reason why a team like the Warriors have got 2 first-round picks next year. Didn't want to trade and kind of lose that asset. So, yeah. Cool. Let's go on to the next pick then. Detroit Pistons at number 16. They picked Isaiah Stewart, center from Washington. We have another center going in the top 16. I give this a D. I just think the Pistons need talent, and they need talent in important positions. And I don't think next to Blake Griffin, this is going to be the most exciting or impactful pick they could make. He's very much a traditional big man. He's very good at post scoring, and he doesn't have great size either for the position he plays in, but he's very much an inside scorer, and I don't think he does a lot else very good. So for me, I gave this a D. What about you?
I'm going to agree, and I'm going to take it all the way. I think it was the least impactful, worst upside decision they could have possibly made. I have him as just a flat F. I had. Let me pull this up.
I was going to say, where did you have him on your board?
I had Isaiah Stewart ranked 56 on my board. They took him 16. He is a hustle guy for sure. He can rebound. He can hustle. He's a back to the basket big. That is not that he's undersized. He's not even that good of a post scorer. I think people really buy into the work ethic, which is great. I mean, you want guys that work hard in your locker room, but he's not really, all the stuff he's good at is not stuff that you place a premium on in the NBA. And they used the 16th pick in the draft on him with a ton of higher upside players on the board and honestly better backup centers. I think that Isaiah Stewart is somebody that might be out of the league in 5 years. And I think that this was about as bad of a value pick as they could have made here.
Yeah, I don't want to be harsh to any Pistons fans because there's a lot of them in the UK, but it's a slight Pistons pick at the moment. They are not very good at identifying talent. Aside from Christian Wood.
I was talking to somebody last night, and the Pistons literally had my favorite pick of the first 16 in Killian Hayes, and then my least favorite pick of the first 16 in Isaiah Stewart. So they are, I guess if you could have told me at the end of the day they would walk out of the draft with Killian Hayes and Isaiah Stewart before I knew they traded for 16, I'd be pretty happy with it, but I would have thought that they got Isaiah Stewart at the end of the second round. So it's whatever. I thought it was a really, really bad pick, but Killian hopefully will make fans still appreciate this draft.
Yeah, I saw someone from the UK I was speaking to last night, and he had Killian Hayes at 3, I think, on his board, 3 or 4. But he had Stewart at 59, and he just said the fact that you end up getting a player way better value in the first 10 picks, and then at 16 you go and pick someone I had at 59. Arguably, should have got a two-way contract. He just said it was a very typical Pistons pick, which I'd have to agree with. So 17, OKC, they traded for another first-round pick. This is the opposite to the last pick. This is pure upside. They selected, I always kill his name, so apologies to anyone who likes him. Alexei Pokasevsky, I'll go with, from Olympiakos. What grade did you give this? Because I know that you were very high on him.
I was, and this is the perfect fit. I gave this pick an A+. I'm going to preface this. I have no clue if this kid's going to work out. We talked about this on the last show that we did together. He is all upside. He plays two guard. He's 7 foot tall. He throws funky passes, runs the floor, defends the rim, can handle, can move. And he did it all in the B Greek division. I think he's going to need an outlier level of muscle gain to make an impact in the league. But that being said, the Thunder are here at 17. They have 500,000 picks over the next 5 years, and they're not planning on competing in the next 2 or 3. And they took a massive swing for the fences, and I couldn't have scripted a better fit, both for the team, who this really fits their vision of swinging for stars, and for the player, because he's going to a great development program and a team that's going to be able to get him minutes to start to grow right away while they're not focused on winning. And I think that this was the best player fit in the draft.
Yeah, I gave this an A as well. I love Kristaps Porzingis. Obviously, I'm a Mavs fan. And he's like a Porzingis light, I'm going to say, but almost better passer and better dribbler at a worse level, because he does, like you say, play in the B League. But the rumors were that OKC were always going to take him. They traded back in at 17, just in front of Dallas, which doesn't surprise me. I think they'd have been a team that might want to take a swing here as well, just to pick him up. And rumors were that he also stopped working out after his OKC workout, almost to try and deter people from drafting him. So it seems like this was the plan all along. And like you said, I think it's a perfect fit. And him and Shea could be quite fun together in a few years if he turns out into the player that maybe he could be. But you never know. He could also be out of the league in 2 years. He's that much of a polarizing player. But
for sure, there's a decent
fun.
Yeah, there's a decent chance he gets out on the floor and isn't able to put on that outlier mass gain, and he just gets absolutely abused Dragon Bender style for 2 years, and we never talk about him again. But if you're the Thunder, I mean, that's fine. If there's a 25% chance or 20% chance of this guy turning into what you think he can, what are they going to do with a helpful connector wing right now on a team that has no chance of competing? They're swinging for the fences. It's a great move.
I do wonder what position he'll play as he goes on.
I do too. I don't know,
because I don't know how much he's going to grow, but in terms of weight gain, it will take a few seasons to do it properly. Yeah. And I do wonder if he'll just say he even doesn't play this year, if next season he's some sort of crazy 7'2" guard, because he does play like a point guard in a non-point guard body. So I wonder if he'll be like a 2 or a 3, but just a huge 2 or a 3.
That would be a blast. If they unlock Poku as a 2, I will league pass the Thunder for sure. I think most likely he's going to fall into that 3, 4. I've been trying to go this entire time without saying Giannis, because I can't compare this kid to Giannis. But the weight gain that you're hoping he has kind of follows Giannis's path, where he came into the league really skinny and now he's all bulked up. And I think that the ideal position for him is kind of that position that Giannis started out in the league in, where they kind of tried to make him a wing and then realized that he had to have the ball in his hand because he couldn't really shoot. I think that 3-4 that they started Giannis in is actually perfect for Poku, because it keeps him close. One of his best skills is rim protection. And I think that if you pull him all the way out to 2, you kind of dilute a little bit of what he's good at. But if you can keep him down in the 4 range, where he can still impact the rim on rotations, I think that'd be perfect.
Yeah, I agree. And I have a friend who put £100, which is probably about $130 ish, on Poku to go in the top 20. So he was very happy to see Poku get traded back in for by the Thunder. So next we have my team at 18. I'm going to be biased on this pick. I'll be honest, I wanted them to take Bay, I think. who went one pick later. But I've been watching Josh Green tape all day. So the Mavs picked Josh Green from Arizona. He's an Australian kid. I gave this an A, but like I said, I'm very biased. We don't need offense because had the best rated offense in the league, well, in history last year. And he can actually spot up shoot as well. But for me, it's more about the defense and athleticism side of things and the fact he can guard probably 2 through 4. So yeah, I like the pick for us for the fit. What grade did you give this pick?
I gave it a B plus, so I don't think you're too far off in your homer ways. I like Josh Green, perfect fit next to Luka. Like you said, you don't really need any more offense, and I know we're going to talk about that Mavs Sixers trade a little bit later, but I thought they hit it out of the park with that as well. I thought the Mavs had a great night, and it started with Josh Green.
Yeah, Rick Carlisle's super high on him, and Rick Carlisle's a very, very good defensive coach who does good schemes on offense. And for Rick to be so high on someone straight after the draft, he's normally a little bit more coy. He wasn't when we drafted Luka, obviously, but he was very, very, very complimentary of him last night. So I think it's a player they've been targeting for a while, and maybe it just wasn't leaked to the media. There was a lot of Bane and Sadiq Bey and Tyrese Maxey rumours. But yeah, managed to get Josh Green and kind of keep it quiet. So most Mavs fans were happy with that.
Arizona,
oh yeah, go for it.
Sorry, Arizona was a weird place to scout this year. Their system isn't really conducive to getting a great look at guys in NBA ready, in an NBA ready environment. So I think that the Arizona guys, Green, Mannion, and Najee, are a bit more unknown than people give them credit for. And I think that Josh Green has other levels besides just that 3-and-D that you saw at Arizona that he will be able to unlock in Dallas.
Yeah, a lot of scouts think he can handle the ball a little bit more than what we think. But the coach, I don't know who it is, but they said that the coach at Arizona State isn't conducive to kind of letting that happen. He likes to run a very guard dominant offense. But yeah, it doesn't surprise me to say that. I've heard a lot of people say that about the way that he played in college, and there's another level, which is exciting. So let's go on to 19. This is a player I thought we were going to take, Sadiq Bey from Villanova. This was originally your team's pick, I think, and then it went to the Nets, and then the Pistons ended up getting it. What grade did you give this pick?
So I gave this a C plus. I am lower on Sadiq Bey. I don't blame the people that are higher on him. I don't love his movement skills, and I think he maybe doesn't have as much of the D part of the 3-and-D role that you're hoping he fits as you would like. He's got a little bit of a handle, but overall I'm lower on him. But I think the bigger picture thing here for the Pistons is they traded Luke Kennard for this pick. And
Yeah,
I like Luke Kennard. I think Bey is probably a better fit next to Killian, which is why they did it. But if you really wanted Sadiq Bey next to Killian, you had a pick at 16 that you used on a backup center. And you could have just taken Sadiq Bey at 16 and kept Killian Hayes and kept all three. And I think that would have made much more sense for the Pistons than what they ended up doing on draft night. So C plus. I don't mind the player fit, but the loss of Kennard holds down the grade a little bit, and I'm still holding the Isaiah Stewart pick against them 4 picks later.
Yeah, I went with B minus. Villanova players very rarely bust, but they're not very often stars at the next level. So I kind of couldn't really give it any higher than that. I didn't want to give it any lower because I understand that it's a little bit of a need for them. But yeah, when you think that they did take a backup center earlier, when you look at it like that, I agree that it's not the most intelligent pick. We're going to talk about winners and losers later, but I think the Pistons and Knicks made a lot of moves that don't quite make sense, where they could have just picked players where they already were. But yeah, we'll talk about that later. So it's a B minus for me. Then on to the 20th pick. This isn't a B minus for me. I like this pick. Miami Heat picked Precious Achiuwa from Memphis. He's a forward / center. I think when Wiseman went out, he kind of shifted a bit more to center, if I'm right. What grade did you give this pick?
I gave this pick a C plus, and it's a little bit confusing for me because I really was high on Precious Achiuwa. I think that he was a little bit too much of a wing in college, and his best position is center. And I think he's uber athletic, and I think if you surround him at center, I think he's going to be a really good player in the draft. The reason why this is confusing to me is that the Heat already have Bam Adebayo, and I don't think that they can play next to each other. And so I'm a little bit disappointed for Precious because I think this is going to stunt his growth a bit, and I don't understand it for the Heat because essentially we've talked about asset use all the time. If we're going to accept that Precious and Bam can't play together, which we haven't seen them try yet, I'm sure they'll try it, but at first, honestly, a pretty deep look at it, it doesn't really seem to fit on the court. So then they use the 20th pick again on a backup center and an insurance policy. And kind of like the Suns pick of Jalen Smith at 10, I really like the player, but the fit confuses me.
Yeah, I was a little bit higher, so I went B minus. I like the fit in terms of the culture and the motor and the way he plays. I do think there's a similar defensive style to how Bam plays on that end.
Mhm.
I'm not. I don't know if they're going to be able to play together. I saw once again. I saw the Ringers post draft show, and Kevin O'Connor was a little bit more bullish than some of the others on how they can play together and start one of the four, start one of the five at times. I'm not sure how it's going to look. So, but as an individual player, I like him, but I couldn't go any higher, like you said, just because of the fit. And a lot of people compared him to Bam with certain aspects of his game. So I find that quite funny that they've kind of picked a player similar to what they've got when there's other options. Maybe I think they could have done with that come up a little bit later in the draft. But yeah, let's go on to number 21 then. This is your team, Philadelphia 76ers. You take Tyrese Maxey from Kentucky, something that I think that Leon Rose and the Knicks were very annoyed that you took him where you did. Let's get your grade on this one first.
I'm going to be nice and calm about this Tyrese Maxey move. I'm going to give it an A minus. I don't want to go crazy. I was lower on Maxey than a lot of smart people whose opinions I value. I don't. He's 6 feet tall. He shoots a line drive of a ball, but he shot good from the line, which is a good indicator for future 3-point shooting. And I think if you clean up the shot, he is the ideal fit next to Ben Simmons. He can defend point guards. He can get to the rim. He's got a little bit of a wiggle. He can handle the ball next to Ben, which is great. I think the only thing keeping this from a higher than an A minus grade is the 29% from three. And that coupled with the line drive shot, and he's a little bit short, which makes it difficult to get that shot off against NBA length. But if he figures out the shot and he has enough spacing on the floor to provide space for Joe and Ben, I think it's a great pick for Philly.
Yeah, I gave this one a B plus. I was struggling between an A minus and a B plus, especially we'll talk about the trade later. But you added shooting in Seth Curry, which made this move look even better, I think. But I agree. I think he shot something like 84% from the free throw line, which is a good indicator that that shot can develop from deep in the NBA. He doesn't kind of show the signs of not being willing to shoot, which some guards do. And I like the fit next to Ben, like you said. I think that he can kind of complement him well. It doesn't have to be the primary ball handler, but when you need him to handle the ball, he can do it. So I do like the pick. And what we were talking about earlier about the team being one of the better defensive teams in the league, I think this is the perfect pick for Doc Rivers and kind of the system he'll play. I think it's very good defensively. I wonder how good he'll be and how much he'll play. Do you think he'll be in the starting lineup, or do you think he'll be more of a 6-7 man rotation?
Yeah, I don't think he'll start. I think, and it's hard to say because I haven't seen much of Doc with these guys yet. When Brett Brown was the coach, he used to pair a bench player with one with Ben, one with Joel, or a starter. Like whenever Joe was on the court, JJ Redick was on the court. And whenever Ben was on the court, Al Horford was on the court. So it was that kind of thing. And I think that Maxey is the kind of guy that would fit great with Ben. And I think his minutes should be paired with Ben, but not necessarily as a starter.
Yeah, I'm just excited to see how good he is on that defensive end. And I think that him and Ben Simmons are going to be very fun together. I don't think opposing guards are going to get much joy in crunch time if Maxey ends up kind of not starting games, but finishing games against the best teams. So yeah, I think that's a fun pick. Let's go to number 22 then, Denver Nuggets. This was another trade, I think, from the Houston Rockets. They chose Zeke Naji, who's another person from Arizona that you were speaking about earlier. I give this a C+. Again, I wasn't sure on the fit. I know that Jokic isn't a true center in terms of who likes to guard on the other end. He likes to stay away from that. He can get torched a little bit in the post, which you'd think maybe Naji would help with. But I'm just not quite sure that this was the best pick available for a team that are in win now mode. But what did you think about this pick?
Yeah, I also thought it was weird. I'm not going to go too deep into it because I feel like I've beaten this drum to death, but starting center, backup center. I mean, Zeke Najee, 22 pick. I trust the Nuggets front office and the development team, so I'm not going to grade it too low. I had it at a C, but I think that, I mean, ideally Najee's never playing with Jokic, so 22nd pick in the draft, max at 10, 12 minutes a game. Same story we've heard from all these other centers.
Mm-hmm. Where was he on your board? A lot lower down, I assume.
Yeah, mostly honestly, just for the same reason I've been saying. I don't really value centers very high.
Yeah,
Um,
that makes sense, especially in modern day NBA.
yeah, I had him at 41, so not a first
it's a reach.
Grade.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Let's go on to 23 then. The Minnesota Timberwolves. This was the Knicks pick at one point. I think they even made the pick, and the trade came out after they made it. And when they made it, I was very excited for them. Speaking about a team again earlier that doesn't have a true point guard, doesn't have a playmaker. For me, with the ball in his hand as much as you'd like. This is Leonardo Bolmaro, who plays for FC Barcelona, and me as a Real Madrid basketball fan, I see Barcelona play quite a lot. And I was really excited by him. I had him quite high on my board. I had him a little bit higher than this as well. And I wouldn't have been upset if the Mavs would have picked him earlier. I know it wouldn't have been the best fit necessarily, but I like him that much as a player. So I think the Timberwolves have got a good player here. He's kind of compared to Rubio a little bit. I know they just got Rubio back as well, but for me, I think he's a good player next to the players they've already got, and he can develop into almost the leader for when Rubio moves on and whenever that will be, 1 year or 2 years. So I gave this a B plus just because I'm quite high on him. But what about you?
I had it a B minus. It sounds like you've seen more of him than I have. I have only, I think, seen 2 of that of his ACV games.
Yeah,
and I don't know. I think he's a weird player. I don't think he's going to come over right away. I worry about him having the strength to get to the rim. And I think he has good defensive instincts, which is very nice, but I'm not sure he has the physicality to be a plus on defense. I don't think he'll be a minus, but I think he's just average on defense. And if I'm the Timberwolves and my picks or my stars so far are Karl Anthony Towns, D'Angelo Russell, and Anthony Edwards, I think I would be aiming towards guys that I thought could contribute on the defensive end. So I will ask you, I guess, how do you grade his defense? Do you think he will be able to guard at this level?
I think he will against bigger guards. I think he'll struggle against those De'Aaron Fox type guards. There's even a chance they could try and move him into a 3, to be honest. Almost like Luka does at time in his first year. Luka will guard 3s just because of his size, and he doesn't have to then guard those quick point guards. And I think Bolmaro kind of fits that mold as well. He is very similar to how Ricky Rubio plays. If you imagine how Ricky Rubio defends, again, he's not a minus, but if you've got a Fox, he's going to get blown past every time. But if he's marking a bigger guard, even someone like a Luka, he'll be strong enough and big enough with his length to hold them off, or you won't get beat for speed. But also, he hasn't got that sort of burst and that athleticism that if someone has got a quick step or they're a little bit more of a jumper, I think that's when he might struggle. So it'll be a little bit of a fit, but he's not a bad defender. I like his length for the position, but again, I think he needs to get stronger in an NBA strength and conditioning program to kind of go to that next level and maybe be a top 6, 7, 8 rotation player for me.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But you won't see many players that play as similar to Ricky Rubio. If they ever play on the court together, it'll be quite hilarious because it's like that Spider-Man meme. That's how much I think he likes Ricky Rubio. I don't like to compare players too much, but that's one that I kind of can't ignore, really.
Cool.
But yeah, let's move on to the Nuggets then at 24. This pick originally was the Bucks as well, and after everything's happened now, I'm sure they wish they could pick here, but the Nuggets got the pick and they selected RJ Hampton, who came from New Zealand Breakers in the Australian League. A lot of people were very, very high on him. What was your opinion? What grade did you give the pick?
Yeah, I gave it an A minus. This is the stereotypical Nuggets trade. I think, again, like we talked about with the Pistons, they probably should have just taken Hampton at 22 and then not worried about having to trade back in for the backup center. But I gave it an A minus. They love to swing for upside. They have a great developmental system, and I can't think of a better place for Hampton to fall than Denver. And he's there with Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray and a bunch of other just budding superstars. And I don't know if he has quite that upside, but if there's anybody that can bring it out of him, it's Denver.
Yeah, I agree. I gave the pick an A. It's quite funny now that there's been 2 backup centers chosen, then two or three picks later, the team's actually selected almost a player that should have gone earlier in the draft. But yeah, I like RJ Hampton's upside a lot. I think he's one of the most athletic players in the draft. There's a little bit of a worry about his playmaking, and obviously the shot is a little bit of a worry, and he needs to improve that jumper for me to be the next level. But I think the Nuggets have made a good pick here. I really like the upside, and like you said, I think him and Michael Porter Jr. as your future stars behind the 2 main guys you've already got there. I think that's very, very high upside. And I just think it's a clever pick from a clever organisation. They're not like a Spurs, obviously, but I think that they're very clever at making the right decisions. They don't make a lot of mistakes. And I think RJ Hampton's a very, very good pick for so far in the draft. So yeah, I gave it an A.
I agree.
I wonder if he'll play, to be honest. I think he's got a chance, depending on who they trade. And if they make a deal and kind of lose some of their depth on the bench, I think he's got a chance to play big minutes
they're deep. I'm not sure how much he'll see the floor year one. They're really deep, but I'm not necessarily sure that's a bad thing because he needs some time to add some strength and mature a little bit. And that's why I think part of the reason why I think Denver is a great fit, because it's not somewhere like, I don't know, the Bulls or the Kings where he'd be pushed into minutes right away. They're gonna bring him along at his own speed.
Yeah, and I would just add that some people are a bit harsh on his kind of New Zealand tape. They compare him to LaMelo Ball a lot, but the difference, I think, 1-2 games, and he was kind of a key member of that team. They were very young as well, whereas the Breakers are a team that were trying to actually win something, and he didn't get the same minutes. He didn't touch the ball as much as you'd like, but that's because he was playing with older players, better players, and I think 3 of his teammates were in their version of the All-Star game. So it's a very different situation.
I liked his NBL tape. I like RJ Hampton. I just don't think he's pro ready or NBA ready year one, just like he wasn't really pro ready his first year in the NBL. He needs a little bit more time to mature and add strength, but I like the foundation.
Cool. Let's go on to 25 then. This is the pick I was talking about earlier, where the Knicks were just trading around all over the place. They ended up at 25 and they picked, I think I'm going to say this name right, you can correct me if it's wrong. I think it's just pronounced Emmanuel Quickly, guard from Kentucky, that Kentucky sort of tape that the franchise loved with Leon Rose and World Wide West there. Everyone thought they'd go Maxey if he was available, but you guys took him, so they went with Quickly, who I had very much a second round grade on. What grade did you give the pick?
I gave the pick a B-, and the reason I wasn't as low on it is because I like Quickly. I had Quickly at 35, which is obviously a bit of a reach here, but I think higher than consensus would be. He can shoot. I think that there's a chance that Quickly is the guy that takes that Kentucky bump that we're always talking about, where, you know, Hero and Booker, they were underdrafted and then they ended up being like star level guys. And I'm not sure Quickly will be a star level guy, but I think him, not Maxey, was the one that was the most out of position in Kentucky. He can shoot the lights out of the ball. He's got excellent floater touch, which is just always a great sign for feel of the game. He really is great in that floater range. I think the question is, will he be able to hang on defense? But in New York, where they have all of these plotters that can't really shoot, Quickly's a great fit.
Yeah, he's very, very good shooter from the line as well. So I think for a team that needs shooting, he's there. But I'll use the same argument, similar to your centre argument, really. My same argument is I think they need a lead ball handler and a point guard for the next 10 years. I don't think he's that guy. I think he could be a good combo guard. I don't want to tarnish him with like a Wayne Ellington brush, but I think he can be a player that shoots that well in the NBA. But I'm just not sure about his ability as a lead ball handler. For a team that, for me, really needs it. And I do wonder with a team of Toppin, Knox, Robinson, Quickly, and RJ Barrett, how badly they're going to do on defense. But we'll have to see. I think John Calipari is a good guy for developing talent, and he's done that before, like you said, in Kentucky. So maybe it'll turn out better than I thought. But I know a lot of people wanted Bain there for them, which doesn't surprise me. But unfortunately for them, they went with the guard. So yeah, I went with C+ for that pick. Let's go on to Boston Celtics then. We can get your 76ers Celtics meter for this pick. Peyton Pritchard from Oregon. I'll start with this one. I gave this a grade C. He's a very, very good shooter, and he's very typical kind of Celtics pick, someone who's a steady player, low with a higher floor than a lot of people, but maybe a lower ceiling. I'm just not as high because they've already drafted a shooter earlier in the draft, and I think there's other positions of need that they had, and they seem to take guard after guard. And I think Danny Ainge almost just drafted himself here, so I wasn't quite as high on this pick. But what about you?
Yeah, when this popped across the screen, I told you my measurement. I actually laughed out loud. I gave this a flat F, my second F of the board.
Where was he on your board?
Yeah, I was just pulling that up, just so you know where I'm at. I have Peyton Pritchard, 69 on my board.
Yeah, he was in the early 50s for me. So
yeah, I think he's a backup point guard at his absolute ceiling. He can shoot the ball. He's ridiculously redundant on top of their two guys from last year, Carson Edwards and Tremont Waters. I didn't think it made any sense. I think even if you wanted to take a backup point guard, which didn't fit here, Trey Jones was still on the board. Cash Winston hadn't been taken yet. Malachi Flynn, Grant Riller, like he was like the 10th best point guard on the board, let alone player. Flat F. Felt fine about it as a Sixers fan.
Yeah, I was going to say you're very happy about it as a Sixers fan.
Can you hear it in my voice?
Yeah, I could. Yeah, one thing I spoke to someone you met actually through the NBA Lives, Rich Barrett,
yes.
NBA UK fan.
Celtics
He's a Celtics fan, yeah. And I was speaking to him about it, and one thing that surprises me every single time there's a trade deadline or anything, they're always linked to centers, and to size, and to people that can shoot maybe as wings. And then every draft they have opportunities to take these players, and they take guards. And I'm just not sure on the fit. Like you said, they're one of the teams that if they did take a center or a power forward, maybe they can stretch the floor, but provide a little bit of size.
I thought the pick here was going to be Tillman, and I was worried that Xavier Tillman was going to be the pick here, and I thought it would have been a home run pick for them at 26. Yeah. So I was sitting glued to the TV, hoping it wasn't going to be Tillman, and then it was Peyton Pritchard. It was just like a big sigh of relief.
Yeah, I thought he was an option. I thought they could have gone for a bit of a flyer on someone like Jaden McDaniels when you've got 3 first-round picks, which they still had at this point. Yeah. So yeah, surprise pick, probably one of the worst ones for the first round for me. Let's go on to 27. This is another one of the worst picks for me. He's a fun player that I like to watch in college. Over here, their games are on quite a lot. We don't get to pick the games we watch over here, so we're kind of shoveled into certain games, and Kansas were on. So the Utah Jazz selected, I'm going to murder this name again, Udoka Azubuike, is that right?
Yeah, Udoka Azubuike. And I gave him a D. I didn't give him an F strictly because I really like Doak. I think he's going to move his feet better than people expect. That's the negative on him. He doesn't move well. It was definitely a reach. Monster shot blocker, monster rim runner. I had him at 51, which honestly I think was higher than consensus. I don't think it's a great pick by the Jazz, but I mean, he needs to move his feet. If he can't move his feet well laterally, he's not going to be able to play in the league. He doesn't have the balance that he needs right now. But I can't help but see shades of like a homeless man that lost all of his money is Rudy Gobert. If you really squint and don't really look at him all that much, he kind of resembles Rudy Gobert.
Yeah, I saw this in the Ringer where they were saying it's kind of down to your philosophy, whether you think they should double down on big men and have a second unit that plays similar to the first unit, or if you should have someone who offers completely different things in your second unit. And for me, I'm just like, the only way this pick makes sense is if they've got some sort of plan to trade Rudy Gobert for some sort of major assets, and they need someone to come and, I don't know, guard the paint a little bit against some of the bigger centers.
He's definitely a backup point guard or a backup center in the truest sense. He's not going to play more than 8 to 10 minutes a game if he even gets that much without higher development in his agility.
Well, I think he instantly goes down in terms of weight and height combination. I think he's the second biggest player in the league now behind Boban, just in terms of overall size and weight. But yeah, strange pick for a team that again didn't need a center unless they're going to trade their center, which they might do because he's up for an extension next year. But we'll have to see. So two Ds from us. 28 Minnesota Timberwolves back into the first round again. They selected Jaden McDaniels, someone who was very highly tipped 2 years ago to go a lot higher than this. What grade did you give this pick?
I gave this an A-. You know, I'm a believer in the pre-college sample. I think he's a defensive menace right now, which fits with what the Wolves are trying to do. I would have liked, just personally, I would have liked him to go next pick to the Raptors or to somebody like the Nuggets that have that better development system. I think he needs it. I'm not sure how well he comes along in Minnesota, but he's instantly a good defender. And I think that the hope for him is that he progresses along the Cam Reddish route and turns into more.
Yeah, I agree. I gave this one an A-. I think the upside is absolutely huge. Size profile, and he's got an NBA ready body really in terms of the position he'll probably play at the next level. So I really like his physical tools. He's very, very raw. But yeah, I think he's got high upside. Again, I agree with you in terms of the Timberwolves. I don't know how much he'll see the floor and what the fit is like, whether he can be a sort of like Malik Beasley type in the future in terms of minutes off the bench. I'm not sure, but overall, I think at 28, you're not going to find many better players. So yeah, A- for me. And they had a good night overall, I think, as a franchise.
I agree.
29 then on to the Raptors, like you spoke about. They selected Malachi Flynn from San Diego State. This is one of the better point guards that we were speaking about a minute ago. Very typical Masai Ujiri draft. They don't make many mistakes. They don't pick people with very low floors very often. So it's very hard to give them a bad grade ever because they're so good in the draft. So I gave him a B+ here. I think he's a good backup point guard that will probably play good minutes for this team across the season. What about you?
We're on the same page. I gave him a B+. Shades Fred VanVleet, 3-level scorer, a little bit undersized. Like you said, Raptors are solid. They don't make mistakes. They hit singles and doubles. They don't really swing for the fences. He's another in a long line of good Raptors picks.
Okay, cool. And then on to the last pick then in the first round, the last one that will properly grade. The Memphis Grizzlies select Desmond Bane here from TCU. He's a player that a lot of people had higher. I know the Ringer had him, I think it was 20 on their board. I had him at 24. I think the Athletic had him at 19. And again, I think someone like Rich was very happy that the Celtics had the pick and they still had Bane on the board. But then they traded it to the Grizzlies. So the Grizzlies got a good player here for me in Desmond Bane. But what grade did you give this pick?
This got an A for me. Desmond Bane was actually 16 on my board. I was again sweating the Celtics. They traded out for 2 future seconds. And the Grizzlies, I know we're going to talk about this in a second, but the Grizzlies are just I think that the Grizzlies don't actually have a front office. They just go on draft Twitter and they see who draft Twitter likes and then they pick them every year. Because this was a home run pick on draft Twitter. And I had him 16 personally. So I think this was a great A pick.
Yeah, I agree. I think I gave this an A as well. As a Mavs fan, I had a lot of other Mavs fans kind of thinking we'd get Bane earlier in the draft. And then when we didn't, they were slightly disappointed. And then when they started realizing we were 2 or 3 picks away from him again, things got very exciting. But unfortunately, I think that's why the Grizzlies made the pick, I think, to jump us because they knew that we'd probably pick him there.
I agree.
So yeah, A for me. I think he's a good player. He's a ready-made player that will play minutes. I wonder how he fits into the Grizzlies lineup. Could he be a starter, you think?
Yes. I think that he actually fits quite well at the 2 or 3 in that lineup. I have a lot of faith in Desmond Bane. He's a good player. We talked about this. A lot more teams need to just have a guy that watches college basketball and says, like, that guy's really good. It can't all be upside all of the time. And Desmond Bane's a guy that you watch and just say, wow, he's really good.
Yeah, I think late in the first round, you have 2 options, don't you? You go high upside, or you go almost ready-made starter.
Exactly.
And teams like this,
I prefer a ready-made starter. Yeah,
unless it's Poku.
Unless it's Poku. Depends on the team.
Yeah, I think the Grizzlies are a perfect fit. I think, again, do you think for the Celtics he would have played minutes? Because I do think if they kept the pick, he would be a good contributor for them.
Yeah, no, I think he's a rotation guy. I think Desmond Bane's a rotation guy for any team in the league immediately. And for a playoff team like the Celtics, I mean, I had him ranked higher than Aaron Naismith, who they took at 16. So I would have been much happier taking someone else at 16 and then getting Bane here.
Cool. All right. Well, that rounds up our first round grades then. A couple of more topics to touch on. Then let's go on to some second round notable picks. We're not going to go through many. We'll just go through a couple each. I'll start just because it's your team. I quite liked Isaiah Joe for the 76ers. There was rumours that he was, before Darryl came in, that he was going to almost had a promise, I think, by the 76ers to get picked by them.
Mhm.
Then there was some medical issues. Then Darryl came in, and everyone was kind of thinking, "Oh, that deal must be done." In the end, he still goes to 76ers. So it's another shooter.
Yeah,
I think it's a good pick for you. I had him higher on my board than what he went with you guys. I had a first round grade on him, so I was quite high on him. So I like the pick. What were your thoughts on him?
I agree. I also had a first round grade on him, so I was really thrilled on that pick. I think a couple other second round guys that I was excited about were I liked the I just had this up. I liked the Grant Riller pick for the Hornets. I had a first round grade on him. We talked about him in the pre-draft show. I
Yeah,
think that the Hornets did some weird stuff in the middle, but LaMelo and Grant Riller could be a backcourt of the future. I was really a big fan of that pick. I like Jameis Ramsey for the Kings. I think he is a guy that has some offensive punch. And another Grizzlies move I loved was Xavier Tillman. I think that was a steal. And I think he's another one. Watch college basketball. Xavier Tillman's a great player.
yeah,
And just I'm going to sneak one undrafted free agent in here since I'm talking about the Grizzlies. They also got Killian Tilly on a two-way, which is a monster upside move. Killian Tilly is a top 20 talent if his injuries don't hold him back. And at a two-way undrafted free agent guy, that's a big win for the Grizz.
yeah. They had a good night. There was rumours that the Kings made that pick. I think it was 34, and then
Mm-hmm.
about 5 minutes after the pick, it came out that they traded it to the Kings. So, no, the Kings had traded to the Grizzlies. Sorry, and I just think the Grizzlies overall had a really good night, and they've improved their team again, really, without taking any huge risks, which I like, and I think they're a bit of a clever franchise. Another player I wanted to mention to get your thoughts on, really, more than anything, Nico Mannion going to Golden State. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think he's a player that can even get on the floor at all, or is he just going to be a G League guy for them?
We talked about this a little bit. I think those Arizona guys were weird. So I don't have a great read on Nico. He's got a lot of bounce. And I actually think he's an NBA player. I think if he didn't play college basketball, right? He just stayed at home, worked in the library and in the gym for a year, he would have been a first round guy. So to get that guy mid to late second round, I think that's a risk worth taking for the Warriors. And I think he's an NBA guy.
Yeah, I think for him personally as well, it's a great fit, isn't it, with the coaching staff and the culture and learning off Steph and Clay with what happens to Clay. I think for him personally, it's a great move. I can't go any further without talking about the best move in the second round, which was the first pick, Tyrell Terry. I had him way higher in the first round. We spoke about him on the pre-show. I was a bit higher on him than some. I think the guys from the Athletic were more of a late first round grade on him, and the guys at the Ringers actually had him at 9 overall. And he is the perfect player to play next to Luka Doncic. So as a homer, I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on Tyrell Terry going to the Mavs and the fit next to Luka.
Yeah, I had Terry at 23, and we might as well talk about the trade while we're here. I think that's a great move for them, mostly because they traded Seth Curry, right, to the Sixers for Josh Richardson and pick number 36. And Tyrell Terry is basically young Seth Curry. So you're immediately replacing Seth Curry with a not as good yet version, but the potential to be better version in Tyrell Terry. And Jay Rich was born to play next to Luka Doncic. The starting backcourt of Josh Richardson and Luka Doncic is a offensive and defensive, just scary. I think the Mavericks were maybe the winner of the draft based on this trade and what they were able to do getting Josh Green and Tyrell Terry. They almost didn't give up anything. They gave up Seth Curry, but I would probably rather have Tyrell Terry.
Yeah, they got Tyler Bay back as well. He's a player that might grow into something as a forward for them. Another defender as well, right? But yeah, I like the trade as well. I've not watched as much Josh Richardson in the last year. Obviously, I saw a lot of him in Miami, but then the East Conference, West Conference time don't quite match up over here. So I was going to get your thoughts. How do you think he does fit next to Luka on the offensive end? Because we all know he's a very, very good defensive guard. But I was kind of wondering how you see his fit on offense next to Luka.
I think he's good as a fourth or fifth best offensive player on the floor. He was overcast in Philadelphia as a primary ball handler, which he's not ready to do. But I think he's a great value for what they got him for. And I think if he's back into his role as fourth or fifth best guy on the floor on offense, then I mean you're not going to do much better than Josh Richardson. He didn't fit in Philly, but he's a great guy. He plays hard. He's aggressive. He can space the floor reasonably well, and he's not going to demand the ball. And I really think you pulled off a heist with that trade. Although we needed to do it because we needed some floor spacing, and Jay Rich didn't fit here, it wasn't particularly good value.
Yeah, it is good floor space if you get Doc Rivers' son-in-law as well, which is always a nice touch, and Seth Curry. But the other side of this trade was that Richardson's an expiring, where Seth Curry's got 3 years on his deal, so it opens a max slot cap space-wise for the Mavs next year already. And also it's an expiring contract, so they could get to trade deadline day and kind of pick this together with a few other players, because they've got a load of players now that are on like the 5 to 11 million mark, which is kind of the ideal thing for trades. There's always rumours that the Celtics are trying to make a trade, but they've got no players on the mid-level money. The Mavs have got a few now, so they can maybe target someone a little bit better, which is exciting. I think Tyrell Terry is going to play minutes for the Mavs, which is fun. Cool. Let's move on then from second round picks to our winners and losers. We'll start with this team because we've already spoke about them. I put the Mavs as my winner of the draft. Not to be too homerish, but Green, Terry, Bay, and Richardson are 4 additions. I think 3 of them will play heavily in our rotation, and I think it gives us opportunities to trade other players now that maybe won't play as much to try and get that next level of player to pair next to KP and Luka. So I like that, and I just think Tyrell Terry was one of the biggest steals of the draft. Maybe Green, some people weren't as high on, but I like Tyrell Terry, so they're on my list. Have you got a winner of the draft that you want to add on?
Yeah, I actually have 2, and I'm not going to touch on the Mavericks because you just hit everybody that I would say, but the Mavericks are one of my 2 winners. And then the second one would be the Grizzlies, actually. They went into the draft with the 40th overall pick and turned that into 3 guys that I had first-round grades on in Tillman, Bane, and Killian Tilly, of course. So, I mean, they had 1 second-round pick, and they got 3 of my first-round guys. So it's hard to beat that in terms of being a winner for the draft.
Yeah, I agree. They were on my shortlist as well. Timberwolves were also on my shortlist, but I had your team slightly above them, actually. So I had 76ers there. I do really like Maxey for the team. And then another one in the second round, you picked up Reed as well, didn't you? Who was a player that I know a lot of people had higher grades on than where he went.
Yes. I think he's going to take a little bit. He's very, very, very unpolished on offense, but I think he's one of the best 5 defensive players in the draft, which is not bad to pick up at 58.
No, so it's another good defender to pair with Maxey. Isaiah Joe as well is a good shooter. Not Steph Curry, that'd be even better. Seth Curry adds good spacing. And what we kind of spoke about at the top of the show, Al Horford doesn't play for the 76ers anymore. So for me, you cannot not be a winner if you get rid of that contract on draft night.
I agree. I also like what Charlotte did. They got my number 1 player in the draft, and they picked up Grant Riller at the bottom of the second. So they're another one.
Yeah, they were one. I saw another fun one, LeVar Ball, because his son got drafted to MJ's team, so we can play 1-on-1 against MJ now. I found that one quite funny. Cool, let's go on to losers then. We'll finish with some losers. Who did you have as your main loser? Was there one team that kind of stood out to you, or have you got a couple?
I had 2.
Go for it.
Boston was my first loser. They went in with 3 first-round picks, made 2 of them, picked a guy I had projected undrafted and a late first grade, and then passed up on a chance to get Desmond Bane. So I had them as a loser. And then I also had Phoenix just because of the bad value pick at 10.
Cool. Yeah, I had Phoenix in my final 3 as well. I had the Bucks because they had no first-round pick when they need depth. And the fact that the Bogdanovich news came out on draft night just before the draft and they didn't have a first-round pick and they had to trade into the second round, I just think that they're a team that needed players and they didn't get any. So I think for them, they're a bit of a loser of draft night in general rather than just the draft. And then unfortunately, I have the New York Knicks as well. I don't like the Obi Toppin fit as much as others. And I'm just super high on Halliburton. So they've still got, I've said it 100 times now, they've still got no playmaker for me to pair next to RJ. And a lack of shooting. And for me, when Halliburton was there, you make that pick and they'd probably be on my winners list. But the fact they didn't, I couldn't kind of ignore them as a loser for me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Cool. And then one last question I wanted to ask you. If you had to pick one pick of the whole of the first round that was your favourite pick, you can't pick a 76ers player. which would be your favorite pick in general?
I will go Killian Hayes at 7 to the Pistons.
Cool. I'm very surprised you didn't go for your boy Poku there.
Poku's up there. He's top 3. Him, Killian, Poku, and Bane would be my 3 best values. Also LaMelo, because number 1 player in the draft.
Cool. I would say James Wiseman because he's my number 1 player in the draft. and if Clay has just got a heel sprain and he hasn't torn his Achilles, they're going to get to the finals for me. So I'll go with that pick. Cool. All right. That kind of leads our recap off there. Thanks again for joining me, mate.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I had a great time.
We'll definitely have to get you on throughout the season to kind of review next year's draft so people are a little bit more clued up on it rather than people learning a couple of weeks before. Have you already got an impression who you think might be the number 1 pick in next year's draft? Is there one standout prospect or is there too many?
Yeah, the standout to look for next year is Cade Cunningham. I think he's a runaway number 1.
And who does he play for college-wise for anyone that wants to go and watch
him this
season? He's going
to be playing for Oklahoma State this year. He went to Montverde High School, and Oklahoma State is actually ineligible for the tournament. So if you want to get your Cade Cunningham look before the draft, you're going to have to catch some regular season games.
Yeah, because there's rumors, aren't there? I'm not sure if college basketball is going to happen in its entirety. Is that looking likely that that's going to be stopped in some way? Or you think they're going to kind of plug through like they have with the NFL and the NBA and just get through it?
Yeah, I think they're going to end up getting through it. I think they'll probably do some sort of bubble thing for March Madness, maybe push it back a month or 2. But I think that they'll end up getting through a decent chunk of the season.
Okay, great. Cool. Well, did you want to give everyone your Twitter handle for anyone that wants to go and follow you and learn any more about your draft prospects and maybe just the Roll Call website as well that you've kind of got now?
Yeah, sure. So my Twitter is just my name at CJ Marchesani. And we talked about Roll Call, the new project I had before I launched it last time I was on. And if you want to follow us, it's Roll Call SN at Roll Call SN. And it's basically just a website for anyone that wants to try to write about sports that never has before or wants to test it out to publish articles and see what they can get going.
Cool. Yeah. Make sure you guys go and follow that because anyone that wants to write as well, you can send CJ stuff and get that posted. And it's a real good way to get people to see your stuff. So make sure you go follow on. Me and Ben will be back next week for another podcast with all about free agency. And then we've got a special edition with NBA UK fans coming up as well. So yeah, thanks again, CJ, and we'll speak to you soon.
Yep. Thank you.